Okay, ta-da! I'm back. And being held accountable to my word by my husband, who kindly reminded me, honey, you have to do your video today. So thank you very much for that, my love. So I have an interesting topic to talk about today, or I think is interesting, so hopefully you are. But I'm going to warn you, I'm going to talk about this as a woman. So that means the conversation is going to be circular, not straightforward like men or women who want to portray themselves as men, or the straightforwardness. See, I'm already talking in circles. Anyways, so there is a point. Join the journey. Trust me, it's going to be fun. So I was very kindly reminded this morning about openness and about creativity, and how important these two processes are to what we're going through right now, and how important they're going to be through battling through a lot of the fear that's coming up. Now for me, fear is, I'm pretty okay with fear because I usually use anger to get me through the fear, because I get really pissed off at the things that control me, that bring up fear, and I don't like being controlled at all. But that's a topic for another day, because what I really want to talk about is the fear through creative process and the fear through openness. So on my drive to Mission today, well, I was cranking up the music and singing along, because for me that's my creative process at the moment. And I was reminded how much I've been denying myself my creative process. As a kid, I drew a lot and sculpted a lot and did all of that awesome yumminess, because that was a really free expression for me. Not only that, it was highly encouraged, and you know, it was a great pat on the back for me for a lot of things. It was the one thing that I fully was okay to be in. And until I hit high school, and then people start doing the, well, you can't make a living out of this, and you need to come up with a better plan. And that's where a lot of fear and anger started to come up in me, because all of a sudden what I thought I was good at, I was told was no longer good enough, because it wasn't going to make enough money to survive. And so this fear for survival came up, and I stagnated in my art and my creative process, because all of a sudden I had to be able to survive. And that's been the process pretty much that I've been trying to work through, is this fucking survival issue that we have going on this planet. And when we're in this constant survival thing, we can't be creative and we can't be open to what's out in the world. So we're all running around in this pain and this denial and this bitterness and this fear, and there's many other words that we can use to describe it. And it all comes, in my perspective, from the fact that we are not allowed to have our creative processes, or we're told that if we have a creative process, it better bring us money because we have to survive. So I want to challenge myself and ourselves through getting rid of this fucking survival issue. I am really lucky and grateful that I live in Canada, because I am afforded the construct that I will always have things to help me survive. Now, that's true in one sense and not true in another, because I have to struggle to pay my rent, to pay my bills. And then I got given an awesome gift from the government, the fact that supposedly I owe them $12,000, which, who knows, I don't care, it's a government issue, and I'll figure that out. But all of a sudden, this fear came out of me, and then I went, okay, what the hell is this? And then this fucking anger came out that here's one more thing to take away my thriving ability. One more thing that I have to fight through to survive. And I took a step back and I said, you know what? I've had enough of this. I'm seriously tired of watching us all barely survive, or feeling that we're barely surviving, so I can't get to my creative process that I need to be able to thrive. So my week has been processing that and getting past it. And so I afforded myself this morning on my drive my music and cranked it up and sang along. And this song came on by Rain, and this is an amazing female group that I've stumbled upon a few months ago, and the woman has a powerful voice. And the song was talking about not letting her go and letting her live in your memory. And all of a sudden, this wash of grief came up for me. And it's going to come again, because that's just what happens, and that's good. For those of you who are just starting watching me or embracing me into their lives, and some of you who started watching my older videos, my mom committed suicide a year ago. So this year has been a process of getting through that. And the many layers, holy crap. And just when you think you're going to get through it, things come up. Music's been a really big thing for me to process through, and it's something that I deny myself quite often, which is interesting to go through. And the voice, and considering my job is to talk with people or to listen with people, and it seems that my new job is to talk at people. It's getting this voice back. So music has been this process, and it's a creative process that I really recognize today that I really need to embrace, so that I can become more open to what is going to come out of me and what I'm going to receive through this process. So here's the circle, I'm coming around. So the grief that came out of me today through this song was really powerful, because what it let me do is open up the throat to be able to speak. And it started with something really small, a letter, well, I guess it's not small, a letter from the government saying, you owe us $12,000, which I'll talk about my process with the government on another day, because those fuckers piss me off. And so I had to go into this fear moment of, oh my God, how am I going to come up with $12,000 when I can barely pay my rent sometimes? And then I went through the process of, you fucking assholes, how dare you take away my ability to survive, but not only that, my right to thrive. And then I let that go, because I thought, no, you're not going to win. This is not a game where people win or lose. This is a game where I create. And so I welcomed another layer of my feminine energy in, and I just let it be. Because as women, we need, or feminine energy, we need to hold space. There's a reason why the chalice is a feminine image, because it holds everything and holds space and welcomes in things. And when we're in fear, we can't welcome things in. So I had this divine moment of being able to embrace some creativity this morning by cranking on my music, chair dancing as I go along. And when this song came on and resonated so deeply with me that I could belt out, which I haven't been able to do for a very long time, the tune, I recognize this process of grief around my mother, which is another layer to go through and to release. And that's where we're going. If we would let ourselves step into this creative juice of processing this and just see what's happening and start to become open to the process. we're gonna let layers go, and we're gonna be able to let them go much faster, instead of just holding so tightly to things that we don't know we're even holding on to because I'm in fear. If we can let ourselves go to this creative process, whatever it is, for me today it was singing, other days it's dancing, some days it's pulling out my sketchbook, and that's a long lost dear friend that I haven't touched in many times, and letting myself see what comes out, letting my openness come out. I can go through things much faster without them re-traumatizing me. And that's really key, because a lot of times when we're working through a conversation process, or I go to or we've gone to counselors or psychologists, we almost relive the trauma. Where if we dive into the creativity, the trauma wouldn't have to hurt us anymore. And that's what I learned today by being able to sort of belt out this song, is I could really process another grief of my mother, welcome another process of my femininity, to give my voice again. So I hope that that's something that a lot of us can start to be okay with, because there's a lot of fear that's going to be running through us, and a lot of depth to that fear, because a lot of the fear is old fear, new fear, survival fear, cultural fear, what the fuck fear. And if we can give ourselves these moments, and they don't have to be very long. Honestly, a song is 3 minutes. In 3 minutes, I processed the grief of losing my mother through a horrible tragedy that she created for us to go through. And I'm grateful for that gift that she's given, and I'm grateful for the gift of the freedom of not having her in my life at this moment, and I'm grateful for the sadness of not having her in this life, because there's some really juicy stuff that's going to be coming down my life, and I'm not going to have that woman to share that with, but I'm also not going to have that woman as a tether on my throat anymore. So it's a great process to go through, and I honor her for doing what she did. And I'm really honoring that feminine process that's going to come out of me as I'm journeying with you and with myself. And that means that I'm going to have to dive into that creativity really deep and really be okay with what's going to come out. So I encourage you and myself to welcome the creativity and the openness to the creativity in whatever form you need on a day-to-day process. I know that after belting out that tune and recognizing there was another level of grief I needed to release, I'm gonna have to go through it too. So I'm gonna encourage you to welcome that creativity. Thank you for listening to my feminine construct of conversation. Another thing that we're gonna have to get used to is speaking with our feminine voice, which is a circular vision, not a straight line. And being okay with that process too. Lots of love. Thank you, beautiful universes, for listening to me process some grief and some construct, and hopefully that creativity works for you as well. Thanks very much. Love you lots.